I have this new Valentine's Day coloring book that is available and I want to promote it, but the only copy I have right now is this one that has like the watermark across the front of it. My good copies haven't arrived yet and they won't arrive in time in order for me to take photos and get it posted online so I can promote this thing. So I took this photo and I want to make a mock-up of my book using this photo, but I want the cover to look nice and clean. So I'm going to do that in Procreate, and I thought I could show you how I would go about doing something like that. This is just in my camera roll on my iPad. So the first thing I'll do is copy this photo. You can go to the share icon here, and then you can push copy, or you can even send it right to Procreate. I want to make it like the right size to post on Instagram. So I'm just going to push copy photo, and then I'll go into Procreate and make a new canvas. So I'll hit the plus sign here, and I'm going to just make that new size for the Instagram posts. So it'll be the rectangle. It's 1080 by 1350 pixels. And this is the new rectangular size for the grid. And then I'm going to paste my photo into here by swiping 3 fingers down and hitting paste. Okay, so you can see how the dimensions are slightly off. So if I just imported this photo directly into the Procreate gallery and started working with it there, it would just be like a little bit more narrow than the size that's recommended for the grid. It's not a huge deal because you can just adjust it within Instagram, but I just want to make it at the right size for the app right away. So I'll resize it just a little bit just to kind of get it to fill the whole space. So now you can see my cover. It has the watermark on it. I want to paste in a clean copy of my cover that I created in Procreate when I was drawing the book. And then I'm going to overlay it over top of this and then make it look like it's actually like a clean copy on the desk. So this is the file I made for my book cover. It's the full cover that wraps the whole way around, but I only need this side over here. I'm just going to go ahead and copy the canvas. So go up to the actions menu and then push add copy canvas. And that's going to copy everything I'm looking at here. Okay, I'm back in my other document and I'll make a new layer and then I'll just resize it so that I'm just using the front. So what I can do is actually just slide it over until it snaps to the edge, and that will crop off that back cover. And now I have just this front part to work with. So I need to make this fit onto this shape and also look realistic. Just going to resize it a little bit to get it closer to the size that this cover is on the desk. And you can see that the angle of the camera is like slightly skewed. It wasn't completely flat over the surface. So this angle here is going to be like a little bit off, but I have a trick to correct that. Okay, so it's about that size. Now you can't just leave it like that. It obviously looks so fake whenever you see products with pasted in images like this. It's really obvious and looks super fake. There's tons of images like this on Amazon with products, and it drives me crazy because it's so obviously pasted in and sometimes it's the wrong size and whatever. So we wanted to make this look a little bit more realistic. Now that I have my image in there, I'm just going to go back to my original and I will create a new shape from the actual book I have on the desk here. With this select tool, it makes it really easy. So I'll just tap on the corners. Okay, and then I want to copy and paste this to a new layer. So I'll just hit copy and paste down there. And now I have like just the book, and it's going to look more realistic if I use this as a clipping mask. So here's the one I drew, and I'm just going to clip it down to the one we just pasted in so that it's at like the right angle and everything. And you can see over here, there still is a little bit of a problem. So what I'll do is go up here and hit the arrow and then grab the distort tool down here and just make it so it's also laying at that angle. Otherwise, it won't look right. It won't look like it matches the scene. And then you can also play around with like the freeform. So you can just slightly stretch it to get it to fit onto the shape you just created. But I don't want to distort anything too much. So that looks pretty good to me. It's still quite bright. Like it doesn't look quite right because it's just like way too bright compared to the other one. And I was also careful when I took the picture not to have this ribbon like overlay over top of the cover. But if you did, all you need to do is erase out little portions. So let's say like the ribbon was coming in over here. I would just go in and erase out the book cover on there, just on like the part where the ribbon is. So an easy way to do that is to use a select tool. So let me just duplicate that so I can show you. So let's say the book was like this. and the ribbon needed to be over top of it. What I would do is turn off that layer, go back to my original, hit the select tool in automatic, and then just get as much of this ribbon as I can, just keeping in mind like this edge here. It's kind of hard because it's the same color as my desk. And then you can also use the freehand tool to kind of like get it nice and clean. So let's say we have like something like that was over top of the book. So now you could come in here and erase it out. I usually work from a duplicate just in case I erase out too much. So I would recommend duplicating your cover or whatever you're mocking up one time and working with that. So this is already a duplicate. I'm just going to go right on that one and then just erase out the part that has like the ribbon. And so that's not perfect. It's just kind of like a quick job to kind of give an example and show you how you can do that. And then it will look better than if you just like slap the mocked up, whatever you need to mock up your book or whatever, like right on top of the other three-dimensional objects that are in the scene. And then I would probably add a shadow under there as well. Okay, but mine doesn't have that overlapping, so I'm just going to keep going with what we have here. So now I think it needs just like a little bit of like lighting and maybe to bring the brightness down on the colors just so it matches the scene. See how this one is more muted and then this one is like super bright. So I just want to bring it down a little bit so it looks more like that. I will work from a duplicate in case I need to revert back, and it just makes it easier if it's in a duplicate layer. So I'll go up here to my hue, saturation, and brightness and then just make it like not so bright. The white was like glowing. And then the saturation was pretty intense too. So I'll just bring that down a little bit and then see how that compares to the original. Okay, so it's better. I still want it to be like kind of colorful and like saturated, but nothing crazy. I just don't want it to look fake. So that's pretty good. But then if you notice on the real one, it has a crease where the book opens and like where it's bound. So I always add that back in. And then maybe add in like a little bit of a shine and stuff. This cover is actually matte, so it doesn't really have like a lot of shininess to it or anything, but I think it'll look better if it has a little bit. And you can see here too, this shadow coming from the ribbon over onto the book. I'll add that back in too to just help things look more realistic. First, I'll just add in that crease. So I'm just going to grab the dry ink brush. So then I just draw a thin line straight down. This is on 2%, so it's pretty skinny. But I won't leave it like this. Like this looks really fake. So what I'll do is use the Gaussian blur and reduce the opacity. So first I just want to reduce the opacity a little bit and see if I can get away with that. And that's okay, but it still kind of looks textured. So I'll go up here to the adjustments menu and use the Gaussian blur. And it only needs a really little bit, like 2% or something. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, so that just helps it look more believable. Just little things like this will help it look like it's the actual real book and not something you just pasted in. So I just want to place those as close as I can to where they were in the real book. So it was like something like that. And I also want to make sure they don't go off the edge of the book. So I'll just clip it down as well. Okay, noticing something weird going on here. And I think it's just that this book doesn't reach quite to the edge. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to color that in white. Okay, so I think that is looking nice. So besides adding the shadows, I also want to add a little shine. So here's how it looks with the shadow there. You can see without that ribbon shadow, and then with it, it's just a really subtle thing, but it really helps make it look more realistic. The last thing that I'll do is put a shadow under the book. So it already has one from the photo, but I just want to add a little bit more. So I'm just going to go back down here to the one that I copied, this one here, and I'm going to duplicate it again. So on this one here, that's towards the bottom, I'm going to alpha lock it by taking 2 fingers and swiping to the right, tapping on it, hitting fill layer, and I already had black selected, and then take the alpha lock back off. And now I just want to make this a little bit blurred out with the Gaussian blur to look like a shadow. So I'm just going to turn everything else back on so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so on that shadow layer, just go up here to Gaussian blur and then swipe to the right. And this time you just need a little bit, like 2-3%. You don't have to go so extreme, like when you blurred out the shadows up here for the ribbon and the white like highlights and stuff. Okay, so I think that looks nice. Here's what it looks like with, and here's without. And then I'll just reduce it a little bit just so it looks more believable. And it's about halfway down there. Okay, so I think that's pretty good for my mock-up. I'll go ahead and export this. I'm going to export it as a PNG. And typically I would go ahead and run this through like Lightroom or some kind of filter to also adjust things further, just to make it look really like polished and finished. You can also adjust colors and things right here in Procreate if you wish. What I would do for that is I would copy my entire canvas. So go up here to the Actions menu, add, copy canvas, then paste. And now what you're looking at is just a copy of a flattened version of your entire canvas. And now you can adjust colors and stuff on that. I wouldn't mess with these ones down here because it'll start to look really fake if some of the things are adjusted and other things aren't, or they're not adjusted as much. And then you can go to color balance or hue, saturation, brightness, and just play around with things in there. This doesn't have as many options for me. Like, I want to have more control over stuff. So I typically will run it through Lightroom with a filter and where I can adjust my individual colors. You're kind of limited if you do it within Procreate based on the hue, saturation, and brightness menu, and on color balance. You can do a little bit in here, but it's just not as good for me as like the Lightroom or Photoshop products. Okay, so now I have something that I can share on my Instagram and showcase my book. I hope this was helpful for you to see how you can mock up your images even if you don't have the product right there in front of you. Thanks for watching.